Hi, and welcome back to Ghosteas. I'm Maci.
And I'm Nadoly.
And happy Halloween!
Woo! Happy Halloween!
I'm sure, like most of you, Halloween is our favorite, or one of our favorites anyway.
Christmas is my favorite, but I love Halloween.
It's a contender.
Yeah.
It's a contender for me. It's one of my favorites. I love everything about it. I love costumes, decor, the fun, the movies, the sounds.
I was about to say, the movies. The movies is it for me. The movies and the candy.
Oh, candy, for
Top
sure.
tier.
It's like the perfect balance of creepy and comfort to me.
Yes.
It just brings all the good vibes.
Yes, I agree.
So for this exciting occasion, we thought we would talk about the history of Halloween and sprinkle in some spooky stories along with it too.
Of course.
Yeah,
Of course.
we have to
Gotta
scare
keep
you
you
a little bit.
entertained.
And as always, we'll be trying a new tea. This one is called Apple Spice.
And it smells exactly like the name. And I'm so
Yes,
excited.
Apple pie
It smells
galore.
like this candle.
It's good.
I'm
So,
jazzed.
ready?
All right. Let's pour the tea. This is actually really good, and it's even better out of this mug that I got for my birthday from Maci and Kayla. It's my most prized possession at the moment, and I am so I'm dead serious.
I know you are.
So,
That's why it makes me laugh.
I'm not going to describe it. You just have to watch it on YouTube, and it'll be underwhelming because it's not like
No.
ornate, but I love it.
It's great.
I love it so much.
Mine, I will describe it. It's out of a cauldron, and the steam from the tea makes it look like a potion is brewing.
It's
and
really
I like
cute.
it. But the tea is also great.
Oh yeah, the tea is literally Halloween in a mug. Oh, and we didn't even say anything about our pajamas.
Oh yeah,
We dressed up. This is our dressing up, our costume. Hope you like it. Okay, sorry. Get back to it.
I rarely tell this story because it actually happened on Halloween night, and I am sure no one will believe me. I was staying in a former dormitory across from offices that were occupied during the day. I absolutely adored the historic building. 1920s, a lot remained unchanged in the room. I was alone, except for the janitor every night who came at about 10 and was gone by midnight. I had a double room. It had a shared common area in the middle with 2 bedrooms on each side. I closed my bedroom door and proceeded to read a really spooky book to get in the Halloween mood. It was about 2 a.m. when I started to hear what sounded exactly like someone at a desk writing on the other side of the wall. I mean, chair moving and shuffling papers around that literally were not there. In the actual space that the sound was coming from, there wasn't even a desk. Just a little counter with an old TV and adjacent coffee station. I was literally glued to my mattress as this went on for what seemed like forever, but was probably more like 20 minutes. I stayed wide awake for at least another hour and a half, but finally had to open the door to the common area and go down the hall to the bathroom. I prepared myself to actually see a person, even though I really felt like it was a ghost. But it was Halloween, and I was like, I'm probably being so ridiculous, scaring myself. And who knows, maybe it's a loudmouth or something. Still no rationalization really made any sense. As I assumed there would be, no one was outside my room in the common area. I never experienced anything again in that room except for a strange feeling, especially when I first came into a room. It was always like somebody else had just walked out.
Ooh.
Ooh.
That's creepy. That's creepy.
Yeah, I liked it. I don't know what I would do if I heard movement outside of my room when I knew I was home alone like that.
Well, my mind never goes automatically to ghost. It always goes to person coming in to kill me. Like I'm
Intruder.
always, if I see anyone looking at me, I'm thinking, well, today's the day I die. So that's what automatically I think. I would never think ghost. But if I heard that, first of all, wouldn't go check it out. Would not. I'd just stay there and freeze.
Hold
like
your
we
pee
said.
in?
Like, yes. Or, I don't know. You do what you have to do.
Okay.
But I don't know. Don't ask me
I
to
won't.
elaborate.
I won't.
But I wouldn't be stepping out to check on it. But if I did check on it and there was no one there, I'm gone.
You
I'm never
leave?
coming back. No, because she's like, and every time I walked back in the room, I wouldn't live there anymore. I would absolutely do anything I had to do to leave. That's so scary.
I feel like if you are living in something older than like 50 years, ghost.
Yeah.
And my mind, unlike yours, always goes immediately to spirits.
No. No.
There's a haunting.
Mine is always axe murderer.
Okay,
Immediate.
good to know.
Immediately.
Interesting. Halloween has a long history intermingled with several different cultures and religions. It's most commonly believed that its origins lie somewhere within the Celtic celebration of Samhain, which is not spelled like Samhain, and I looked it up how to say it. So About 2,000 years ago, these ancient Celts residing in much of Europe marked the midpoint between the fall equinox and the winter solstice, which is around November 1st on our current calendars, with the seasonal harvest, winter preparations, and a huge celebration. It was the most significant of their quarterly fire festivals and the beginning of their new year. It was on the eve of Samhain that they believed spirits, demons, fairies, and all manner of creatures could roam the lands freely. The veil between the mortal world and spirit realm was at its thinnest. Which I've heard that before.
Okay, I've heard that before. That's like the whole basis of Halloween in my mind and what I know.
The people would leave their hearth fires at home to burn out while the harvest was gathered, and then join in with the druid priests to light a community bonfire. They would take a flame from the large communal bonfire back to their homes to relight their own hearths after it's been burnt out to bring luck for the following winter. Which, because the winters usually were really hard times for them.
Yeah.
Lots of death and hunger. But this was said to bring them good luck going forward. They practiced rituals, sacrificing cattle, hosting large feasts, and telling spooky stories and folklore.
Sacrificing cattle?
Yeah.
When was this?
Like 2,000 years ago.
Oh my god. That's so sad. Okay.
Well, I mean, they ate it, so it's not like...
Okay.
But they're just left it out
the
there.
Sacrifice part of it is...
Yeah, a little bit.
Madagascar, King Julian. Human sacrifice. That's what I think of.
That's good. I haven't thought about him in a while. Participants in the ceremony would wear masks and disguise themselves as animals to hide from the demons and fairies that were out to cause mischief against humans at night. The Celts also believed Samhain was a time that the souls of their dead loved ones would return to their homes too. They would leave food out for the wandering spirits and host dumb suppers, or silent suppers, in which they would invite their ancestors to join them to celebrate together once again.
Aww.
Children would play games to entertain the dead, and the adults would update them on what happened over the year, just kind of a, hey, this is what you missed. And they may even leave food outside their doors at night to keep away the darker spirits.
Wait, so they had like seances, or they just would sit down and just think that or feel that the people were there, so they would just talk to the wind?
They would leave a place at dinner for them.
Okay.
And have silent suppers to like kind of help them along to their dinner, and then afterwards the children would play and the adults would talk and stuff. The night was a perfect time to practice other forms of divination, making predictions on marriages, luck, health, and death. When the Celts were eventually conquered by the Romans, the Roman Empire.
We don't have to talk about it. We don't have to talk about it.
We won't. Sometime in the 1st century, some of their own festivals were kind of added into the celebration of the harvest. There's Veralia, which commemorated the passing of the dead, and Pomona, the goddess of harvest, meshed together with Samhain, creating even more of the traditions that we kind of think of today. Then in the 8th century, Pope Gregory III moved All Saints' Day, which is to honor and remember all known and unknown saints of the church, All Saints' Day, and All Souls' Day, which was for prayer and remembrance for faithfully departed, as well as the poor souls still in purgatory.
Oh.
And they moved them from May to November 1st and 2nd. It was a time for prayer for the souls and help them along to heaven, basically. It's believed that they moved it to this time to kind of sub out the pagan traditions and sub in their Christian traditions, since Christianity was kind of spreading through Europe at this time. They also moved the celebration kind of another plus because there was an abundance of things to celebrate with, like food and stuff because of the harvest.
Yeah.
And the day before All Saints' Day became known as All Hallows' Eve, and the whole celebration season was called All Hallowtide, which still kind of referred to that way today as well, which I didn't know.
All Hallowtide?
Mm-hmm.
Who refers to it as that? I've never heard that.
Not me. I don't know, but that's what the interwebs said. I don't know. The holiday slowly became secularized and celebrated by people from many countries all over the world. Though the first American colonists were not allowed to celebrate, not surprising.
Because they're Christian?
Religious reasons. Well, they were Protestants.
Oh.
And it was fairly popular in the many southern colonies, though. By the 1800s, Americans were holding fall festivals that celebrated the seasonal harvest, which started to begin incorporating some of these Halloween elements to the celebrations. And Irish immigrants escaping the potato famine were bringing in more and more of the elements that we know and love today. The beliefs and customs from all of these celebrations mixed with different European ethnic groups and those of Native Americans, creating the version of Halloween that we celebrate now. Today in the United States and even across the world, it's a huge holiday celebrated by millions, though maybe not for religious reasons any longer. I mean, not for me anyway.
Yeah, no.
But there's still an air of supernatural mischief in the air. And
Yeah, it always feels, even if it's like 8 a.m. on a Monday morning, but it happens to be October 31st, when you go outside, you feel that like, ooh, I don't know if it's like excitement for me, just because my whole childhood I was so excited, or if it's just something in the air, but I definitely feel it.
oh yeah,
It gets me excited.
It's heavy, yeah.
Yeah,
I like it. Heavy good.
yeah, for sure.
So here's another story to kind of... I've got two, actually.
Ooh, I'm excited.
It was a dark and stormy morning. I was heading to the smithy to start the day's fire. The rain heavy, the sky dark, and hung close to the ground. As I neared my shop, I could hear the light tink of a hand hammer followed by the heavy muffled thump of a well-wielded sledge. Someone was in my shop. I hurried to the door and just about broke my nose as I tried to enter because it was still barred from the night before. I hurried past the dark windows to the back door and fumbled with the key to unlock it. As my hand went to the lock, the tapping and pounding got louder and faster. The lock finally opened, and as I got the door open, there were 2 taps on the anvil and all noise ceased. The smell of hot iron hung in the air. As I looked around the dim shop, I couldn't see anyone. The forge was cold and looked undisturbed. My hammers and tongs were in their racks where I left them. I was starting to think I'd still been dreaming. I leaned on the anvil with relief to find it was hot to the touch. Spooky. Some ghosts making some swords or something.
It's honestly a mix of your theories and mine. Ghosts and axe murderers. They're all the same. Oh my god. That's scary. That's really scary.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the idea of the supernatural and heavy machinery. That's horrifying.
Never thought about it that way, but I also can't get behind that.
No.
So here's another. I used to work as a bartender on a military base, and one of the most memorable nights was Halloween. We had gone all out with decorations, including a skeleton perched on a barrel. Whenever someone passed by, it would giggle and pretend to pour a bottle down its throat while spouting pirate sayings. One eerie night, as I was closing up the bar all by myself, I switched off the decorations and locked all the doors. Just when I thought everything was in order, a strange sensation made the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. Startled, I turned around, prompted by the sound of someone clearing their throat. That's when things took a bizarre turn. The skeleton suddenly sprang to life, as if someone had just walked past it. I was perplexed because I knew I had turned it off and there was no one else in the bar. I decided to investigate and found the switch in the off position, which left me baffled. Without giving it much thought, I removed the batteries and stashed them in my pocket. While counting down the till, an unsettling feeling of being watched crept over me again. Finally done with my tasks, I was ready to leave for home. However, just as I approached the employee exit, I heard the pirate skeleton's eerie laughter once again. Without a second thought, I bolted to my car.
Ow. I was about to say, I don't know why, because for me, it takes one small thing and I'm running. Like, I don't care. I'm running. I might be over dramatic, but after the first one.
Oh, I always try to rationalize things in my head. Immediately, first thought, ghost. Second thought, Maci, calm down. Everything's okay.
No, for me, it is someone's killing you today and I'm gone. That's it. That is it. I'm so afraid of everything. It's not even funny. I call you when I go into work. If I'm the first person there, I can't go in that office without having someone on the phone with me because I'm like, there's someone waiting in the corner when I walk in and they're going to murder me. I'm talking so much about death, but
I mean, Halloween.
No, that's so scary.
No, I know those animatronics at like Spirit Halloween and other Halloween stores. That I'm sure there are some stories. I'm sure.
Trixie Mattel, like the drag queen, that's like one of her biggest fears is
Spirit Halloween.
No, yes. Oh no, animatronics. And so when you talk about it, like, because they've talked about it so often on their podcasts and the shows and stuff, like there's this animatronic gorilla. I've never even seen it, or animatronic Yeti or something like that at like Disney World or Universal. And just animatronics in general are kind of scary to me now because I've heard so many like terrifying stories from Trixie's fear of animatronics. So Yeah, no, I don't like them either. Just, I have like secondhand fear.
Especially one that laughs. I don't know. Something about it. I wouldn't.
Mm-mm.
So our neighbor we've talked about before, my good friend, she had animatronics because she used to do like go all out for Halloween. She'd have this big Halloween party and she had a wraparound porch that I had nothing to do with it. She would turn into a haunted house and then there obviously would be haunted trails and stuff. And she had animatronics. And she had, I believe it was a clown, like a Pennywise kind of thing. I think.
Yeah.
Just the thought of it kind of makes my heart start pumping.
Job with that.
It was always fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was always a lot of fun. So bringing it back to Halloween. Halloween today is the second biggest holiday in the U.S. behind Christmas in terms of money spent. Wow. Americans spend around $6 billion on costumes and candy alone.
There's no way.
Yeah.
You go to Party City and you spend $5 on a synthetic wig and you buy a cheap cheerleader costume and there's nobody spends $20 on Halloween costumes. Maybe I'm just out of touch because I don't ever dress up a lot.
And this was years ago before inflation. Personally have spent like $60 on a costume before.
That's
in total. Shoes, costume, extra makeup, stuff like that.
$6 billion?
Yeah. Americans spent $500 million on costumes for their pets in 2021.
Okay.
See, you understand that one.
I love that. That's really cute. I love to see animals dressed up, but
they're cute.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I would not expect that.
I was flabbergasted by that number too. And that's just on costume and candy. That's not decor.
Yeah.
That's not all the extra little things.
Because the decor is what costs more, I would feel like.
Especially if you get the big things.
Yeah. But if I was going to think about like holiday spending, I would think Christmas obviously first. But then like Thanksgiving, all the food, because food costs so much. Well, I would think like, wow.
Halloween parties, you eat a bunch of food too. It's usually snacky food.
It's like pretzels dipped in chocolate with an almond on the end to make it a finger. Like that doesn't cost that much. I guess if you really think about it, but that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That is crazy.
Yeah, wild. It's become a bit of a mashup of many celebrations all rolled into one big extravaganza. And as we mentioned before, many of the activities we associate with Halloween today are derived from the activities of our ancestors. But there's some fun ones that didn't quite make it, and I kind of wish they did. Now, some of the ones that I liked here. There were a lot of superstitions about matchmaking during Halloween, which not my first. Like when I think ghosts and ghouls and goblins, I don't think, who's my husband gonna be?
Yeah,
like,
no.
That's not what I think of first.
No.
But fortune tellers would recommend to young women.
Okay. When you say fortune teller, I'm like, okay. Because they normally tell you
your fortune,
life, just all that stuff. Yeah.
They would recommend to a young woman that they name a hazelnut for each of their suitors and toss it into a fireplace. And the nut that burned to ash instead of exploding would be the name, like who would be their future husband.
We should try that for Kayla.
Kayla, if you're listening,
but you better be.
Hazelnuts for you. Girls would stand, this one creeped me out. Girls would stand in front of a mirror in a dark room with only a candle in the hopes that when they looked over their shoulders, they would see their future husband's face. And if they saw their face, that would be who they would marry. I'll pass on that one. Kayla, you don't have to do that one.
What? And people actually did see the face?
Supposedly, yeah.
Or they were like, ooh, I kind of have a crush on Johnny. And then they're like, oh, I saw him. It's meant to be. Because
who knows?
That's horrifying.
This is what people said.
Okay. Sure, Jan.
It's Halloween. Let's kind of let our disbelief go out the window.
Okay.
One of my favorites is when young women would toss apple peels over their shoulder and whatever shape the peel landed in was the initial of their future husband.
Oh, that's cute.
Which reminded me of something, I don't know if you used to do this, but me and some of my classmates used to do this, where you would twist the stem of an apple and say the alphabet.
Like A, B, C.
And whatever letter that the stem popped off on would be your future husband.
Yeah, but if you had a crush on someone with the first initial R, A, B, C, and as soon as you get to R, you're like, R. Oh my God, no way.
Okay, I never did that. Mine always popped off on like Q, and I'm just like,
John Quincy Adams.
That's definitely
what's the first name. Who has a cute name?
Queen Elizabeth.
Cut that out. I don't even know.
I'm keeping that. But some of the ones that are still here today. Bonfires, obviously. They were a big deal back then. They still are now. Everyone has a bonfire on or around Halloween. But there's another interesting game that I think we need to bring back. In the dying embers of the big bonfire, people would place small stones, each representing a person in the community. And the next morning, if any of the pebbles were displaced, it meant that person would die within the next year.
We should do that.
That one's creepy.
I
do, but I don't. I like that one.
That's hilarious. I would love to do that. That's really funny. But also, I feel like that you shouldn't do that.
The colors of Halloween can be traced back to Samhain. Black represented the death of summer, and orange the autumn harvest.
Aw.
Black and orange.
Cute.
And bobbing from apples seems to have come from the Roman festival in honor of Pomona. Costumes, we mentioned that already. Costumes were used for disguising oneself from dark entities that were looking to cause harm. And the concepts kind of remain the same. Just to conceal your identity, but for different reasons. Kids took to playing lots of tricks on the community, and we'll talk about that in a little bit because it was wild. And having their identity hidden while they were being little tricksters out there helped them stay out of trouble, really. And eventually, as people started trying to lead children into more productive and less destructive activities on spooky nights like Halloween, costumes became what they are today, kind of a way for kids and even adults to just express themselves, have fun, dress up as their favorite characters and creatures of the night. But costumes is probably one of my favorite things.
We were just talking about it before we even started recording. I love a good theme. I love a costume. I love a dress code. I love Halloween parties because I love to dress up. And I love when everybody is going to show up dressed up because I can't wait to see like what everybody picks. And I
me too.
Love it.
I like looking at other people's costumes more so than I like dressing up myself. Yeah. Because I don't like the pressure.
Yeah. No, but knowing that everybody there is going to dress up as something, it like makes it like there's no pressure. You just show up in a costume because everybody's doing it. I don't know. Yeah. I love it.
I feel that.
It gets me so excited.
Then there's trick-or-treating.
Love.
The custom may have come from a practice called souling, which on All Souls Day in England and Ireland way back, the poor would go door to door to the richer families' homes asking for pastries called soul cakes in exchange for their prayers for their deceased loved ones so that they could get them out of purgatory. Souling made many transformations, mixing with other traditions like guising, where a person would dress in costume and tell jokes and perform tricks and songs, recite poetry, all that in exchange for fruits and candies and cake. Well, not candies, but for fruits and cakes and all manner of treats. And then children began doing it with the adults as well. Then it turned to candy and then et cetera, et cetera. By the 1950s, it became one of the most popular activities on Halloween night. So I said we'd talk about it. Tricks. This shook me. And it might shake all of you.
When you say that, I only know of like modern small towns. You're going to the principal's house and wrapping it with toilet paper. Yeah, that's the only trick I can think of. Egging, is like
that kind of thing.
Egging?
You've never heard that?
Oh, I know, but I thought people did that when they like hated someone. They like egged their car. But no, like the only
Deviants.
The only thing I can think of is taking a package of toilet paper to a teacher's house and throwing it over the trees. Yeah. That's it.
Well, people used to get wild. Like wild. Young Irish boys would string cabbages and pull them through fields to scare people. This is back in the day. Scottish boys, this is terrible. Scottish boys would pull up a cabbage stalk, get it smoking, and stick it up to a keyhole in somebody's house so that it would just fill with the disgusting fumes. So when the person returned home.
That's evil.
I could not. If I came home to a smoked cabbage smell, I would be pissed.
That's hilarious.
In America in the late 1800s, people would put wagons on people's roofs, like cart buggies, like horse and buggy, like their wagons would be on people's roofs. They would uproot their vegetables in their gardens.
Oh, that's evil.
Tip over outhouses, occupied or not, and steal people's gates, releasing their livestock.
That's too far.
It gets worse, okay? At first, the pranking was fairly mild and limited to country towns, but with the advent of cars and the spread into more urban areas, it got worse. They would remove manhole covers on the streets, which are very important for pedestrians. And cars alike, I'd assume. Deflate tires, put up fake detour signs for drivers.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. Don't do that, but it's a good one. Eventually, it led to absolute chaos and destruction, though. So, one year in Kansas City, some kids waxed streetcars tracks on a steep hill, causing the conductor serious harm when it crashed, unable to stop.
Oh my God.
In some cities, kids would set fires, break glass, and... Why are you laughing? And trip passing pedestrians. A newspaper called the Cook County Herald in 1902 advised people to, quote, Load their muskets or cannon with rock, salt, or bird shot for trespassers. Pepper them good and proper so they will be effectually cured and have no further taste for such tricks.
Oh my gosh.
A guy really did shoot a prankster.
I was about to say, that's very American.
In Tucson.
Oh, these kids.
Shoot them.
Get your guns. That's horrible.
This was in like 1902. In Tucson in 1907, these pranksters set up a tripwire going across a sidewalk, and a man who fell and tripped pulled out his revolver and literally shot somebody.
Oh my God. Just because he's embarrassed. He's mad that he fell,
He's
so he wants to
pissed,
shoot
dude.
someone.
Yeah, it's horrible.
You can be mad, but it's more embarrassing than anything.
I mean,
It's
It's funny. It is funny.
It's
But
funny.
it's coupled with a bunch of other things. Like, he's walking down the street, kids are like breaking glass and lighting fires, setting vehicles on fire, and he gets tripped. He's like, that's it. I've had it. I've had it. There was a report of a woman being literally scared to death by a group of boys in Indiana. Popped out and just, I assume she had a previous heart condition. But in 1900, a group of medical students at University of Michigan literally stole a headless corpse and set it in front of the door building, just like chilling.
Oh my God.
Horrible.
It's not
Horrible.
funny. I don't know why I'm smiling. I'm uncomfortable. That's horrible.
Horrible. Needless to say, people were fed up.
Yeah.
Obviously. Destruction got so bad by the Great Depression that people considered completely canceling the holiday.
Oh my God.
But they decided it'd probably be better to just buy these kids off. And so instead of allowing the young boys to flip cars and saw off literal telephone poles, they decided to hold parties and parades and festivals for children to kind of occupy their time into something a little more manageable.
So Halloween was the children's purge, is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
Just the one night of the year that they get to have complete anarchy, just roaming the streets.
Yeah,
That's
pretty much.
honestly so funny. It's bad, but it's so funny.
I'm glad I don't live in those times, but looking back, yeah.
I would have loved it as a kid. That's so funny.
So, cue haunted houses and trails. Haunted trails as well.
Ooh.
It was a way to still give the kids a thrill, but keep them off the streets and from actually causing, like, literal harm.
Literal death.
They
Yeah.
held house-to-house parties, where one house may be a spooky attraction, the next would give out treats, and then maybe the next would give out homemade costumes. So they would kind of like walk house to house, you know,
And just celebrate. That's
celebrating.
cute.
And then terrifying amusements on like a trail of terror
Love those.
was brought too. So basically they were like, give us all the goods or we're setting the city on fire again. Essentially. So if you don't give us candy, we will destroy your home.
We will commit arson.
Basically.
Give me the Reese's pumpkin or I will light this house on fire.
So a 1937 party pamphlet on setting up a haunted house or trail said, quote, hang old fur strips of raw liver on the walls where one feels his way to the dark steps. Weird moans and howls come from the dark corners. Damp sponges and hair nets hung from the ceiling touch his face. Doorways are blocked so that guests must crawl through a long dark tunnel. Just kind of telling them, here's some things you can do.
Oh, scary.
I like that quote though, because like fur and raw liver on the walls.
Absolutely
What?
not.
These parties turned into what we have today, basically. Neighbors telling ghost stories, dances, fortune telling, all that jazz. There were more than just witches, ghouls, and goblins roaming the streets now. I saved the best for last. Jack-o'-lanterns.
Ooh.
This one was interesting. It's not the best. Like, I don't have an affinity for jack-o'-lanterns. That's not.
Hey, your blanket.
That's true. But no, I liked the origins of a jack-o'-lantern. It is a practice originating from an old Irish myth of a man named Stingy Jack. The Irish used to carve haunting faces into vegetables like turnips and stick a candle inside to keep him away. They refer to the figure as Jack of the Lantern, turned into jack-o'-lantern, and some scholars believe that the legend actually came from sightings of will-o'-wisps in swamps and marshes glowing at night. Which, random light glowing in the distance. Yeah, something ominous is happening in my mind. Maybe not in yours. It's a serial killer coming for you.
Yep.
Regardless, the Irish believed it could protect them from dark spirits like Stingy Jack. And when they moved to the Americas, they found that pumpkins and gourds were much easier to carve than turnips and jack-o'-lanterns. There are a couple versions of Jack's story, but I want to retell one that I found in the Dublin Penny Journal from 1935. And the tale goes a little something like this. Jack was a rude and mean-spirited man, and those who had the misfortune of coming across him in any capacity would tell you so. The only thing he was any good at was running his own farm. Just barely. Generosity was not part of his vernacular, and this was known by all in the land. While returning from a fair in a neighboring town one night, he came upon a dark and haunting stream. Nothing but murder and superstition was spoken of this place. As he was riding his horse across, he thought he had heard the groans of an injured man. Though he would never take a second to investigate under ordinary circumstances, and the thoughts of this haunted land weighed on his mind, something came over him, and in his drunken state, he came to a stop. The groaning continued, proving that it wasn't just his imagination playing tricks on him in the darkness. The voice cried out to Jack to help him. It was the voice of a homeless wanderer who had lost his way, injured himself attempting to cross the stream, and was stuck, laying out to die in the moonlight. He begged Jack to show mercy to his tortured soul and save him from this fate. Though he had never experienced this feeling before, Jack began to pity him. He helped the old man to his feet, allowed him to wear his coat, and took him back home by horse to his wife in an attempt to offer a kindness. He and his wife fed the stranger and let him rest in a warm bed until he recovered. Jack was awakened that night by a bright light filling his home. He left his room to inspect the strange happening and found that rather than seeing the old homeless man he left in his spare bed, a young and beautiful man resembling no human he had ever seen stood before him. On his back were great big wings as white as snow. The man spoke to Jack with a wonderful voice that was simply music to his ears. He claimed to be an angel tasked with watching over God's creation, and he had heard of the ill-tempered, selfish, and cruel man that Jack was. "But I find that some generous seeds of virtue have lain uncultivated within thee," the angel exclaimed. And because Jack was kind enough, in the moment, to him, as he was disguised as a lowly soul in great need, he decided to offer a blessing to him and his house, and bestowed upon him 3 wishes. "May wisdom bound the desires of thy soul." Jack paused, realizing his great fortune, and though he was given the opportunity to do great good for his family and the world, he went with his true nature and listed out 3 wishes that would only help himself. "There's a sycamore tree before the door, fair and wide-spreading, but every passerby must pluck a bough from it. Grant that everyone touching it with such intent may cling to the tree till I release him." The angel, saddened by his first choice, made it so. "Secondly, I wish that any person who sits on my chair may never be able to leave it or remove the chair from the ground until I give my consent." And so it was done. "Lastly, there's a wooden box on the wall here. I keep it there to hold my thread, hammer, and other tools I use to mend my shoes. I'm tired of the people digging their hands inside to use for their own benefit as soon as I'm not looking. Make it so that anyone who sticks their hand inside may never remove it or the box from the wall unless I allow it. Those are my 3 wishes." The angel sighed, but granted the last of the 3 wishes. From that point on, it is said that Jack would never be allowed into heaven because of the true happiness and joy he received from wishes so greedy. The blessing on his home remained and allowed Jack a nice life with thriving crops and livestock and a house full of children. 20 years later, that is 20 years full of Jack having consideration only for himself, he sat alone in his chair admiring his life and all of his earthly blessings, when suddenly the smell of fire and brimstone filled the room. As he turned to search for the cause of such an unpleasant occurrence, a very tall and evil-looking creature adorned with horns, cloven feet, and a long tail appeared in his living room. This demon immediately spoke to Jack of his permanent exclusion from heaven and informed him that his master awaited his swift arrival. Jack was alarmed, but swallowed his feelings of already attempting to put a devious plan into action. He welcomed the unearthly stranger into his home and offered his seat to the creature while he waited on him to get ready for the trip to the demon's home below. The demon did so, and Jack laughed in triumph. As the demon attempted to leave the seat, he began to realize he was stuck to the chair with no way of escaping. Jack used the opportunity to cause great harm to the demon, unyielding and merciless, until he couldn't any longer. He agreed to release the demon only on the condition that he never return for another visit. Though Jack believed he had won, Satan had many demons to do his bidding, and shortly after the first incident, he sent another one along, telling him never to sit in Jack's seat unless he wanted to befall the same fate as his predecessor. The following day, Jack was intruded upon by another unwelcome guest. A demon similar to the first entered through the front door, though cautiously. He, like the one before him, informed Jack of his impending journey to hell. Jack asked the demon to have a seat, but knowing what happened before, he refused. So Jack took a seat and said that he would leave only after he could mend his shoes for the long journey. He requested the demon pass over a few things from a small box on the wall near where the demon stood. The demon obliged, and upon sticking his hand inside the box, realized he had befallen the same fate as the one before him. He couldn't remove his hand from the box and began receiving the same beatings until the demon agreed to the same conditions that the first demon was subjected to. At this point, the devil, angered and surprised that 2 of his best messengers could be fooled by the same trick, decided that this time he would retrieve Jack himself. He ascended the pits of fire and set off towards Jack's home. The ground outside was icy and wet as he approached Jack's cottage. He rapped on the door and his voice boomed over the land, demanding that Jack exit and meet him in person. Satan knew the tricks he had played before and was not going to allow Jack the advantage of his home this time. "I will go whither so your lordship commands me," Jack answered through the door, frightened by the threatening voice. "But the road is slippery, and ask that you allow me to fetch my cane and kiss my wife and children before I set off." Not wanting to waste any more time on this wretched human, he refused to allow it and insisted that Jack come out now and leave with him immediately. "If I walk without support, I will surely fall and break my bones. There are no carmen on the road to hell, and you would have to carry me the rest of the way. Oh, had I even a bough from yonder sycamore tree to support my old limbs, it would certainly be enough to assist me to our destination." Tired of listening to Jack's complaints and not wanting to carry him the whole way, the devil grabbed hold of a branch of the tree, but was unable to break it or remove his hold on it. Jack yelled for joy as he reached his adversary, the same tool in his hand that he had used on the 2 previous beasts. Though he cried out in mercy, Jack continued on until sundown, only after Satan promised to neither see Jack on earth or in hell ever again. With that, Jack released this enemy and left to rest after those long 3 days. And so Satan kept his promise to Jack, not allowing him entrance into hell after his death, but so did the angel from years before. He would not be permitted into hell nor heaven after the life Jack led. He was left stranded on earth, in purgatory, doomed to walk with nothing but a lantern to light his way until the day of judgment. Stingy Jack remains here with us on earth even today. Sometimes in the dead of night on All Hallows Eve, you can see his lantern in the distance, slowly making his way closer and closer, searching for his place of rest.
That was a good story.
I thought it was really awesome.
That was cool. Not what I thought jack-o'-lanterns would come from, but wow.
Meaning, I don't know what I thought jack-o'-lanterns came from. Like, someone saw a pumpkin and like, a cool face would be cool here.
I just assumed, like, it was, one for decoration, but, like, I knew it had to come from somewhere. I thought it was just, like, we need a light in the night to, like, keep the spirits away. Like, that's what I thought. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it. That's why I saved it for last.
That's a good one.
So, especially here in the U.S., especially in the South, really, there's another celebration that happens today around the same time as Samhain, and that is Dia de los Muertos, or the Day of the Dead. I greatly admire. I love that. I love all the celebrations. It's really cool to me. It's a beautiful holiday celebrated by residents and descendants of Latin America that honors the dead. It also seems to be a melding of several different sacred festivals of like Aztecs and other indigenous people with Spanish Catholics that centered around the idea that spirits would return to the world and walk freely when the veil was thinned. Death is just a transition rather than an end. The festivity, yeah, me too. The festivities begin on the night of October 31st, though some people begin earlier, when souls of the dearly departed can return to their earthly homes. The celebrations continue on through to All Souls Day on November 2nd. Families construct altars to commemorate their deceased relatives in their homes, decorated with candles, marigolds, photos of their loved ones, and all their favorite foods and drinks, which I love. And relatives will also tidy up the grave sites of their loved ones, decorating them with flowers and wreaths and paper streamers and all that. And the families will gather at grave sites to picnic and reminisce. The Day of the Dead is a huge celebration in Mexico and other parts of Central and South America, where they hold parades and people dressed in costumes of skeletons with elegant skull face paint, which that's my favorite part, I think.
Yeah.
And there are also large celebrations in some cities in the U.S., like LA and San Antonio has a big celebration too. They eat sugar skulls and sweet bread baked called pan de muerto. Forgive my Spanish. The point is to demonstrate love and respect for deceased family members at a time when the barrier between our world and the spirit world is dissolved. So I wanted to throw in a happy story about this specific celebration because there's a lot of creepy elements around this time of year, definitely. But to me, there's something just wonderful about remembering those that you've lost and knowing that their souls are still out there enjoying themselves and will always be with you. So I grew up in Southern California in a town that big time celebrated Dia de los Muertos. I'm not Mexican, but my oldest daughter's father is from Guadalajara, And so I've done my best raising her to feel connected to her roots. I moved to the Midwest years ago to finish a PhD, where I met and married a white guy, and we have a little daughter together. I've always put out ofrendas for my Irish Nana and my German grandmother, because growing up in a Mexican community taught me the value in such practice. And I like to keep my oldest kid connected to where she was born to her culture. Last year, my husband's father died rather unexpectedly from late onset muscular dystrophy. My husband has really struggled with this loss over the past year. His father, Randy, was a wonderful man, salt of the earth, railroad worker on the Sioux line. I only knew him for 4 years, but I loved him deeply. When he died, my husband changed. We're both professors, my husband and I, and his dedication at work slipped. He drinks a lot more. He's often up late watching football with his father's ashes nearby. He cries out of the blue. Randy was such an important part of what motivated him to be a good father, a husband, and scholar. He was the kind of blue-collar social justice warrior baby boomer that's hard to find. So this year, I asked my husband if I could put out an ofrenda for Randy. I gathered photos of and his Sioux line hat, his ashes, and cold summer sausage and PBR. I placed all this next to my Nana's ofrenda on a built-in bookcase out in front of our living room yesterday. I lit candles, no big deal. The kids were trick-or-treating and had friends over, and there was fun chaos all around the house. The candles glowed, and the ofrendas were background reminders of the family we miss, nothing noteworthy. My daughter said her hellos to my Nana and grandmother, and this year to Randy, and we went about our holiday as usual. After the kids went to bed and my husband came home from a get-together with colleagues, we had a stern disagreement about his drinking. I was upset that he continues to rely on alcohol to help him cope with his grief. He was apologetic and kind, but still very much in denial. He huffed off to bed drunk and discouraged, and I stayed up downstairs to turn out the lights and blow out the candles. I went to the ofrendas. I stopped and, as I do every year, had a long talk with my Nana. We were very good friends in life, and I miss her a ton, even though she died 16 years ago now. I took care of her while she was dying, and the night she passed away was very overwhelming. It's a long story most people, save my father who was there with me, believe. But when she died, she came to the front door and knocked on it loudly to tell us she was going. It was incredible, and to my father and I, who are atheists, it shook us into agreeing that there is more to living and dying than we know. So there I was, at 3:19 a.m., talking to my Nana like she was there in the room. I was sober, but for a glass of rosé I drank for my grandmother, and I was listening to Ah, Sweet Mystery of Life on my phone, one of Nana's favorite Irish operettas. I was just chilling in my feels about Nana, not thinking of Randy at all really, when suddenly his frame photo shot or pushed forward with such force, flinging salami and beer out of the shelf. His hat flew from the shelf and beer went everywhere. I was stunned. I couldn't move for a moment. I just stood there shaking and trying to figure out how in the hell the mess happened. Nothing of my Nana's, no coffee or toast or photos were disturbed. My grandmother's ofrenda was untouched as well. No windows were open, nothing had shifted or fallen, except every single item associated with Randy. I was crying suddenly, picking up salami and beer and laughing. Okay, I'll go get your son, I said out loud. I ran upstairs almost giddy and woke my husband. I didn't tell him what had just happened, but I insisted like a crazy person that he had to go down and talk to his father, and he did. I left him downstairs and tucked in. Today he told me that he talked to his father until sunup. That he, and he's the most atheist of all atheists, felt his father there with him, listening to him, loving him, helping him with his grief. My white-as-hell husband, who is always very cynical about my ideas on death and living and things like ofrendas, thanked me for calling Randy home to us, and he said next year, we're going to grill him steak. Happy Dia de los Muertos.
That is so sad, but so sweet.
I thought it was really
Gosh.
sweet. Yeah. I love that story. I saw it and I tear.
Yeah.
I thought it was really sweet, and I wish that we did something like that.
I do too. I was just about to say, so now we know, if we die, y'all can set me up a little thing.
We'll set up an altar for you.
Please.
I promise.
Please do.
Every year. And I will talk to you. Maybe not push everything off the shelf. Just let me talk.
How else would I let you know?
I love it. But yeah, we need definitely add that to our traditions. We have lots of traditions for Halloween. Well, lots.
Not a ton.
Not a ton, but important, I guess I should say.
Very, very important.
To us.
Yes.
Yeah, we love movies, as we said. We love Halloween movies.
Halloween Town, Twitches.
Yeah, particularly Disney movies.
Yeah, okay, it's the Disney Halloween movies, but it's because we always watch them with our mom, and it's
Yes.
just such a, like, it's our thing.
Mhm.
Like, we do it every year.
Halloween Town is top notch.
Oh, yeah.
Like, classic in my book. Hocus
Mhm.
Pocus,
Oh.
obviously. I think everyone loves a good
Of
Hocus Pocus.
Of course, Hocus Pocus.
Halloween Town 1 and 2 and 3.
All of them.
I
All of them.
those, though.
Love them.
I also like Nightmare Before Christmas. That's not one we really ever watch, but I watch it and
I
I
like
like
that
it.
one.
It's a good one.
I watch that at Christmas and Halloween.
Same.
Because
I
it's-
think it's perfect.
It's both.
Nightmare.
It's a Christmas movie.
It's yeah, I like it. I like it. I also like to watch scary movies. You love scary movies for
Oh.
sure. I always love scary movies. I don't like gore in horror
No.
movies, but I love a good thriller.
What's crazy is,
Or
like, some of my favorite movies are the Scream movies,
Mhm.
and there's gore, but, like, I hate gory movies. But the Scream movies are just...
it's a different kind. I don't know. Chef's
oh,
Kiss. I love Scream as well. It's probably that was
So
my
much.
favorite movie at like 2.
Yeah, and I can, like, if I need to just go to bed and need to turn something on the
It's your
TV,
comfort movie.
I'll turn on Scream. Yeah, I love
I like
Scream
that. That's
movies.
hilarious.
All of them. Oh, they're so good.
I don't know if you read many books, but I also like to read a good spooky book too.
I don't ever think I've read any, like, scary.
It
Scary
scares
books.
me more than movies do. I don't
Yeah.
know, my imagination is way scarier than anything Hollywood could
Okay.
ever create. I'm dead serious. I also have always loved haunted houses.
Oh, yeah.
I
Me too.
love haunted houses, haunted trails, all of that. We grew up in a rural area, and I think we've talked about this before, and haunted trails were a big thing.
Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of woods.
Yeah, and it was so much fun. It was always
Mhm.
my favorite thing to do growing up, was
Yeah.
a haunted trail, really.
Mine too. So much fun.
But let's end on a story that may prove that the Celts had something right thousands of years ago, that maybe the spirits of the dead do wander around on All Hallows Eve. Maybe the veil is the thinnest on this night. And just maybe, if you're walking around outside after dark on October 31st without a costume to mask your identity, the fairies, spirits, and demons will take the opportunity to snatch you away, dragging you into the dark night, never to be seen again. 2 Halloweens ago, I did something kinda dumb. Let me start at the beginning. I started working at a small local pizza shop in my hometown. After a few days, I became really good friends with the early morning housekeeper for the bar next door. She was really cool and dark, very mysterious. I also became friends with some of the cooks at the pizza shop, and one cook in particular and I started hanging out almost every weekend. Eventually, the housekeeper became more comfortable with us and invited us over to her place. Now, I was not expecting what I walked into when I first visited her home. Her house was like the party store threw up Halloween and horror. She had many odd collections, stones, dead flowers, herbs, and many, many books on witches and black magic. Her prized possession was a real human skull she got off a crackhead many years prior. Needless to say, it took some warming up to get used to her house. Though spooky, it was still very much inviting. Cut to Halloween 2020, and it's a full moon. Halloween was my friend's only holiday she ever celebrated, so she went big. By the time the cook we made friends with had become absolutely insufferable to be around. So we relatable.
Yeah.
So we hatched an idea to scare the absolute piss out of him. My friend and her daughter and I sat down to talk about what we wanted to do. I mentioned how it was a full moon, so how about we go to the oldest cemetery near us at midnight and do some EVPs and stuff? They said, absolutely. Now, I'll just call my lady friend T. T was very into black magic. She wanted to take her witch's bell and open a portal. I didn't really believe her, but went with it. Our daughter chimed in with the brilliant idea to construct a mock Dybbuk box. And when we got there, she would smash it on the ground and start acting up to scare the cook off. We should have known better. At least I should have. It was Halloween night, and we were a bit late getting out the door. But at about 11:30, we finally left T's place. The cook drove, and I sat shotgun. T and her daughter were in the back, her daughter with the Dybbuk box in hand. We had told him she ordered it online. T did an amazing job making it look absolutely authentic. So as we drove, we didn't think much about the box. I had brought my EVP recorder and my EMF detector with us. I set the EMF detector in the door as we drove and had it all off. All of a sudden, T's daughter giggled and shook the mock Dybbuk box. And out of nowhere, my EMF meter started to sound off and beep. It wasn't on. We all went silent and the whole mood shifted. We got to the cemetery and we all kind of nervously got out of the car. The whole area was glowing, the leaves were glistening in the moonlight, and the tombstones were almost ethereal with the glow from the granite reflecting the moon. Clear skies and all alone, we slowly made our way to the back part of the cemetery. It was so beyond silent out there. We find a good spot and T says, okay, everyone sit in a circle. She then opens a container and pours her sacred salt mix around us and warns us not to leave for any reason until we are done. At this point, I'm ready to go home. The cook looks terrified. I'm absolutely dreading the feeling in the air. So we all sit. T puts the box in the middle of us and puts both the EMF and EVB recorder next to it. Her daughter starts playing on a spirit box app, and the sounds that came from it silenced us. Let me out, it said. Then the EMF went nuts. Suddenly, I got the gut-sinking feeling I wasn't alone with them anymore, and we were in serious trouble. Silence falls over us, and we all kind of stare at each other. Now, me and T and her daughter had not at all planned on this box actually being real, but somehow, she must have caught some entity inside. Suddenly, we were broken from a trance, and we realized there are sounds of walking coming from the woods inches away from us. We can clearly see no one is there. I closed my eyes and grabbed T's hand and said, okay, I'm officially scared. What do we do? She said, it's fine. Ghosts aren't real. I said, you and I both know that's a lie. The cook stands up and says, yo guys, I think we really need to get the heck out of here. I can hear people all around us. At this point, he kicks the salt circle open and starts walking to the car. T's daughter smashes the box and says, screw it, let's go. So we all frantically follow. When us girls got home, we knew we messed up. We didn't close the door we opened in that cemetery. We actually caught something in the box and we might have let it out there. All I know is ever since then, none of us have been right. I never feel like I'm alone anymore. And if I'm working at night by myself, I always have to double check that the presence that I feel looming over me isn't real.
That's the end?
That's the end.
That was good. That was scary.
Yeah, that got me. That one felt really real too.
It did. It did. I could see everything in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
No Dybbuk boxes in
What is a Dybbuk
cemeteries.
box?
It's I believe it's like a.
But you catch a spirit?
There's a spirit or like a dark entity inside the Dybbuk box, and like you use it to catch a spirit, a dark entity.
That's scary.
Yeah,
that's really scary.
You can literally order them online. I don't know how real they are, but they're like creators that will buy Dybbuk boxes online. But anyway,
happy Halloween!
Happy Halloween! We hope you enjoyed this episode. It was a lot of fun to research. I hope you learned something too. I thought it was really cool.
I learned something. I had fun. And I didn't know what to expect, but this was cool.
I liked it. Well, I did. I mean, obviously I wrote it.
Yeah,
I liked it. We hope you have a really great Halloween. We hope you have lots of fun. We hope that you don't summon some evil spirits in a cemetery.
Don't commit arson. Just go get the Reese's pumpkins.
Please. Please, we're begging you. Don't forget to rate and review this podcast wherever you're listening. We'd love, love, love to hear what you think. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and leave us a comment. And follow us on Instagram at Ghosteas Pod to keep up with what's going on. If you have a creepy or supernatural encounter of any kind, we want to know it. We want to hear it. Please send it to us. You can DM us on Instagram or you can email us at ghostespod@gmail.com. Maybe you'll hear it in a future episode. Maybe not. Either way, we want to hear it.
Either way, we're going to be talking about it. So send it.
Please send it. We are super pumped to continue. Or I am anyway. I can't speak for you. And we'll see you next Monday with another spooky episode.
Woo, bye.
Bye guys. Happy Halloween.